Welcome to the service clinic at Low Country Harley-Davidson. I'm Doc Harley. Recently I did a video on cam end play and received many questions asking, is that the same as runout? So I thought this was a good time to explain the definition of runout. I could see how you could be a little bit confused or wondering about runout because it shows up in the same area as the cams. When we're talking about runout, we're talking about the pinion shaft and the output shaft of the flywheels. The pinion shaft is connected to the flywheels, the rods, the pistons, and as this rotates, we figure out what the runout is, which means the up and down measurement of this pinion. Now, you'll already see that the oil pump is connected to this pinion shaft. And then when the cam plate, which has the cams, is slid in here and the gear is on the pinion, that is driven by the pinion. So it's very important that the runout measurement of this pinion shaft is close to 3 thousandths or under, so everything stays together. If we had excessive runout up and down, it could bust the oil pump, and it could also affect the cam area and the drive of it. So the pinion shaft. This pinion shaft has been part of Harley-Davidson since 1903. Even the first Harley-Davidson had a pinion shaft. And as I said, as this rotates, the pistons go up and down, this rotates round and round and drives the oil pump and the cams. On early models of Evolution and Shovelhead, there also was the timing mechanism for your ignition on the end of this. So we need to know, is this rotating as close to zero amount so everything stays exact and stays running? Now, to do that, we use a tool. The fueling company makes a fantastic tool for checking an estimated runout of this pinion shaft. It connects to the existing bolt holes. It has a dial indicator perpendicular to the shaft. And so we rotate the flywheels and see how much an estimated end play is of the pinion shaft. So I'm going to zero this out, and then I'm going to rotate, and it looks like we have close to 3 thousandths. But as I said, this is an estimate. And why do I say that? Because the way the twin cam is built, we have bearing here and a bearing here that the whole flywheel mechanism rotates on. Let me show you. Over here on the bench is a set of flywheels. Same thing we were looking at. Pinion, flywheels, and the rods and the pistons going round and round. Here are the bearings, both sides. This flywheel floats on these bearings. Now, the reason I say estimated is because there's noise. Okay, we have a bearing end play. We have bearing movement up and down inside its cage, and we have the clearances between this and the race that's here. So we have that end play to consider with the flywheels inside the cases. So if we get a number that, let's say it's 5 to 10 on the pinion shaft on that side, under warranty, Harley-Davidson would say, we need to take the flywheels out and put them in a truing stand. Why do we call it a truing stand? Because we want to know if this is true or not, up and down. Now, in the past, Evolution, Shovelhead, we would put the flywheels between these two pointed areas. But with the twin cam, the factory has not drilled this hole perfectly centered in this side. And then, of course, on this side, we have a large hole for the compensating bolt. So now we have to put the bearing surfaces, this, on these roller bearings, one on each side, and we set up dial indicators straight up and down, perpendicular on it, and then we rotate the flywheels. If we get a reading of 5 thousandths or more, the flywheels are replaced. Harley-Davidson does not, and dealerships do not, rebuild these. Why? Because these flywheels are pressed together. And a lot of dealers don't have a press that can take this apart and put it back together again in a true sense. So at dealerships, if it's more than 5 thousandths in the truing stand, not in the crankcase, then we will replace these flywheels. Now, we have been talking about the pinion side of it because it is so important, because if the pinion side is way out, let's say 10 thousandths, 12 thousandths, it'll break the oil pump, all right? And that's one of the symptoms that we as technicians would look at. If a motorcycle has lost its oil pressure, we're going right to the cam area, pull it apart, and check the runout to make sure that the runout hasn't busted the oil pump. But there's another side of this runout, and that's the drive side, the sprocket side. Let's go check that out. The sprocket side gets the most abuse, and this side is the more likely to become untrue. Why? Because we got this huge compensator over here with the clutch and the tire, and if you drop the clutch or a really powerful motor that you create, it's jerking this all the time and puts a lot of stress on this sprocket side. Now, we saw close to 3 thousandths on the other side of it with the fueling. I've hooked up a dial indicator perpendicular to the shaft, and yes, this is geared up, so I'm only getting the high points of it, but it will show you. Let me rotate the motor and let you see the difference from the other side. A whole lot more than the pinion side. So this would indicate, yes, we need to take this out, put it in the truing stand, and check it, and probably this flywheel set needs to be replaced because of how much play is in the drive side. What shows up on the drive side? We had a customer from out of town come through who had a history of breaking loose the compensator bolt. He had to replace it 5 times in his lifetime of his motorcycle. And the other part of the equation was his primary chain would adjust to bone tight. They'd readjust it, and down the road it would go to bone tight. Well, what was happening, this was out of true, and it was moving like a tail of a dog, up and down, side to side, and it was making the primary chain loose, then tight, loose, then tight, and that made the adjuster tighten up. And this would work the bolt out because it was just wagging its tail really tough. So the symptom was compensator was breaking down sooner than it should have, and the primary chain was wearing out faster than what it should have. Also, a slight possibility of symptom is excessive vibration, because this is doing a big dance of the tail of the dog. So there are 2 things to check on the flywheel called runout. The pinion side runout and the sprocket side runout. I hope this explanation of runout helps you understand the difference between runout and end play, and you understand a little bit more about how a Harley-Davidson flywheel setup is set up in the twin cam and the M8. I'm Doc Harley. We'll see you next week.